Earlier in the program, Avery Davidson showed us how the U.S. Farm Bill process is in jeopardy. So what does that mean if we do not get a new Farm Bill? Neil Melancon turns back the clock more than 60 years to let us know in this week's Bottom Line.
The Bottom Line is brought to you by the Cotton Board, strengthening the fiber of our industry, and by First South Farm Credit, financing rural America since 1933.
One of our favorite pastimes is to play What If? What if I won the lottery? What if I was taller? What if I were Superman? And so on. In agriculture, the big game is what if the Farm Bill doesn't get passed and we revert to the 1949 law? It's always been fun because nobody ever thought we'd be this close to it happening with a gridlock Congress at the very bottom of the approval ratings. So here we are with no Farm Bill to be passed before the August recess and the current law set to expire September 30th. What if that day comes and goes? Well, it's going to have drastic effects on farmers, consumers, and the U.S. economy as a whole. For many crops, the support levels would be through the roof for some crops and non-existent for others. For example, corn's price support level is about $2.63, so it wouldn't affect corn very much. However, wheat prices are about half of the 1949 farm law support, which would cause it to skyrocket to those levels. Beans, on the other hand, were not grown in significant quantities then, so you'd have zero prices support for them at all. What this would mean is an overall shift in crops away from those without support price levels to those with them. For consumers, the prices at the grocery store would rise dramatically across the board regardless of the crop. In addition to the price rise associated with things like corn and wheat, milk support levels would be almost 4 times what they are now, and the price for a gallon of milk at the grocery store would be $8 a gallon. While this is probably the most extreme example, combined with the price rises already mentioned and the scarcity created when everyone stops growing beans and the like, your grocery bill would inevitably go up. So the impact on the U.S. economy is easy to see, with much more of our disposable income going to food. But it's a good deal for farmers, right? I mean, big government support levels that guarantee them an income. Well, maybe for a year or so. See, one of the things we didn't have in 1949 as well was a huge South American crop to compete with. Food processors and retailers would rather import all those beans and corn rather than pay those exorbitant fees, so you'd have whatever the government didn't buy going to compete with rock-bottom prices domestically. The bottom line, there is not a pretty picture for anyone, Mike, and why Congress has to act before September 30th.
And Neil, there is no doubt, because I know consumers are feeling the pinch of higher food prices right now, but can you imagine a mother going to the grocery store and paying $8 for a gallon of milk? Can't happen. Neil Melancon, thanks. And remember, you can listen to any of Neil's daily radio reports on the Louisiana Farm Bureau Agri-News Radio Network. For a list of stations where you can tune in or listen online, click on over to our website, twilatv.org, and click on the LF Barn link. That does it for this edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. Join us next week when we'll show you how one young rancher is making a difference with beef cattle grown on grass. For all of us here at This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Michael Dana. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope to see you again right here next week.